the reason we call these cafes is actually I started them in Berkeley in 19, oh, I don't know, many years ago, literally meeting in a cafe called Pete's,
David and Rachel. Hi.
and people dropped in like they are right now. David and Rachel are good friends of ours. And hi, David. Hi, Rachel. Oh, what a surprise.
Hello.
Beautiful to see you both.
And hello to you, Filo. I've not seen you in many years.
Yes, it's been a while.
So the idea of a cafe is just like this. I mean, just friends popping in, saying hi, sitting around, chatting about things that really matter to them rather than maybe the news, whatever, which might be another occasion, but not this one. We focus on awareness, and Ed is a consummate aware practitioner.
I got this from Alan Watts. I'm a Zen entertainer.
A Zen entertainer. Okay. So we're just waiting for a couple of minutes to see who else drops in officially at the prescribed time, which seems we're, what, 2 minutes out of? And
Yeah.
there's Ella. And then we'll just sort of start with some kind of a
My
introduction.
cat, the cat's joining us.
Yes, yes. What do we call the cat?
Gizmo.
Gizmo. Oh, God. So Gizmo's in the meeting.
Cats seem to have an affinity to presence somehow.
They certainly do, don't they?
Yeah.
I had a cat called Mitzi Coco Cha Cha Cha, and he was as big as his name. Big cat. Calico.
Trying to get this glare out of my glasses. But,
yeah, me too. I don't know how to do it. You notice when you drop your head, you don't get the glare, but I don't know how to do it.
So let's kick off this meeting.
There we go. Yes. Are we on time, Filo?
Yeah,
Please
yes,
lead
yeah.
on. Thank you.
So non-dual explorations of what is. So the idea behind these discussions is to share direct perceptions and insights into our everyday living, the ordinary everyday aspects of our life, and how we share the understanding that we've gained over the years about awareness, non-duality, all of these ideas that are ideas until they're put into practice. So today we have Ed here, Ed Conley, who's from the Zen tradition. And Ed, I want to start off by just reading something from your YouTube channel.
okay.
That I found particularly interesting in the context of everyday direct awareness and living. So you say Buddhism made simple and easy by finding Zen insight in your everyday life, which you call Zen fits. And it's the wisdom of Buddhism is not complicated or abstract when we stay focused on our everyday experience. So that seems very practical ways of using Zen, because when I think of Zen, I think of meditation in a quiet space. So I'm very interested, I'm sure we all are, to hear how you apply that in your everyday life.
Okay, well, just to begin on taking James's cue, I'm going to say that all my talks and my writing are my meditations. I'm no expert. I'm not a Buddhist, and I'm not really a Zen Buddhist either. I basically remove any labels as soon as they stick to me. And I have a bottle of goo gone, and I just squirt that on a label and it's gone.
Gotcha. Goo gone.
Yeah, I should have it here. I like props. So anyway, let's begin to see if we can remove the snow.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Zen fits. I use that. I love that title because when I do my talks, I say welcome to Zen fits, and Zen fits is ambiguous. It means I'm having a fit. Nothing fits. I'm having a fit, or everything fits. It's a Zen fit. So the Zen fit is ambiguous. It fits and it doesn't fit. Now, which is it? You see, and this is Zen. It's one of the breakthrough koans is the monk asks Joshu asks his master, his teacher Nansen, what is the way? What fits? What is the way to making my life fit? And Nansen said, everyday mind is the way. So that's ambiguous right there, because the monk is saying nothing fits, and Nansen is saying everything fits. Now, which is it? Is it nothing fits, or is everything fixed? There's a choice, and so this is the dilemma of consciousness is that we want to have a choice. In our culture, the Western culture, particularly American culture, choice is freedom. So you got to have more choices. So you have Costco, you get Walmart because there's more choices. And now we got the internet, you got Amazon. Oh, there's a lot of choices on Amazon, you see. So that's the idea of freedom in our culture is choices. But choices are kind of like the Hydra in the labors of Hercules, so that when every choice you take creates more choices. So the it's like choice. The chooser is like a butcher. That's one of my metaphors. The butcher has got a he wants to find the steer, but he finds the steer by chopping it up into choices. Well, this is a steak. That's better than hamburger. I'll choose that. But then he'll chop up the steak. So everything he chooses chops up into more choices. So we're in a plurifera, tongue-tied, of choices today, and choices keep multiplying. And so we think that's freedom. So now we're drowning in choices. We're drowning in information. We're drowning in choices. So this everyday mind is the way, really kind of like asks us to investigate how we know things. How do I know? Because we all want to know what the one is. So if somebody says, what is the one? Well, then we're going to be offered choices. Well, it's either that or that. You choose. But that you choose just creates more chopping up the one until you never get to the end of it. It's like Zeno's era. It never gets to the target because it keeps dividing itself. So it just keeps choosing into this or that. And these are what Zen koans are all about. They are really non-verbal demonstrations of the dilemma of choice, because all the monks are going to ask the master, what is the way? What's Buddha? What is, what is it, this or that? Tell me. And the master will always give a response that that just blows the monk's mind out of the water, because he's not telling you what to choose, but he's pointing you to no choice. So anyway, this Zen fits is a good analogy or a metaphor for that, because we go in our conscious mind, nothing ever fits. So always trying to make everything fit. We choose more things. We try to find the one that is two. We keep trying to find the one, but we can never find the one with the conscious mind, because the conscious mind is a duality delivery system. Everything comes in twos, like on Noah's Ark. Yes or no, this or that. Do you want eggs or cereal? So we got a choice. In America particularly, we think if there is no choice, we're kind of like it's communism. Communism is kind of like, well, you don't have any choice in communism. So it's this the great demon or fear in the American mind is the fear that you won't have a choice. So that fear creates more choices. So we just keep kicking choice down the road where nothing fits. And yet, when we really stop, we discover that everything is fitting, everything fits. So ambiguity is a great place to work in arousing awareness, because arousing awareness is arousing the mind that doesn't choose. It's the choiceless choice. So when you arouse the mind, this is the Diamond Sutra, and it's the Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra that I chant every day. And it's really been kind of like the end of the road for me. The end of Gizmo is trying to get back in, excuse me. So it's kind of like what is the end of choice? Well, obviously you can't have no choice. So what is the end of this or that? What is the way, the monks ask, what is the way to beyond choice? This was by the third patriarch, who said the great way is where you are free of preferences and choices. And so the monk asked Joshu, having read that, what the great way is. The great way is having no choice or preference. So he asked his teacher, all right, so do you ask Joshua, well, where is this place where there's no choice? Where is that? So Joshua said, I alone am the most honored one. Of course, he is repeating what Buddha said upon awakening. I alone am, but throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one. And so the monk asked, well, isn't that a choice? And Joshua said, you ignoramus, where is choice? Now, he answered that question in another way when the monk asked Joshua, another monk apparently asked Joshua, where is this place of no choice? And Joshua said, go to where there is no hot or cold. And the monk said, well, where in the hell is that? And Joshua said, when you're hot, sweat. When you're cold, shiver. And see, what our choosing mind says, well, I don't like being cold, so what choices do I have among air conditioners? Or I don't like this negative, this feeling, so I want to choose something else, you see. But that is an art of that is creating when you just, Joshua's saying, if you're cold and you just sweat, or if you're hot and you just sweat or cold, just shiver, you just are what you are. There's really no choice. You can't be different than what you are. You can't be better than you are. So its whole thing goes back to everyday mind, where we think nothing fits, but actually everything always fits. But it's ambiguous. And so we can't get to the truth of it through the logical, analytical, choosing mind that we believe is the only mind that can find truth, you see. It's kind of like where the American mind, the Western mind, is stuck in the belief that that the way is through choice. Choose a better philosophy, choose a better religion, choose a better whatever. You got a choice, everyone says. And it's everywhere in our culture. You got a choice. But when you go to Zen, there is no choice. And yet that's ambiguous, because there is a choice, but it's the one that, instead of looking at the two, there's two, and I say, well, where is the one? Well, it's in the future. You got to get to it. Mm-hmm. But then Zen flips that and says, don't start with where is the one, start with start with the one that is two. So instead of starting with fragmentation and trying to find the choice or the one that makes everything fit, you start with everything fitting, and then you can work with the things that don't fit. So it really flips the journey, or from starting from I hurt, who did it, how can I fix it, to I'm okay, I fit. Now what can I do to polish it up a little bit? You know. So I see a bunch of other people have dropped in, and so let's see. So this my work with Zen basically is, I'm not really working with Zen. I just use Zen because it's got the language, or it's got the language I can use, or the examples I can use, or the framework I can use. But I've never been to a Zen center. I've never met a Zen master in person. I've never been to Japan. But yes, what was it? but I really, so I'm kind of like I'm an innocent in this. In other words, so I can use the language of Zen, not the formal Zen like sitting on a cushion and how you sit and what you wear and you shave your head and whatever, all that stuff, and you get a Zen and you talk with Zenny things and all that. For me, Zen is awakening creativity, arousing the mind that does not rest on choices, that doesn't rest on anything. So that mind is going to be spontaneous, and it really doesn't know what it's going to say next.
Right.
You're nodding. What's going on?
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And you talk about earlier, you talked about metaphor and words, and how we stop at the belief that a word is real and that it's portraying reality. Do you care to comment on that?
Yeah,
That was a lovely
metaphor.
comment.
One of the biggest problems, and we can see it on Facebook and in our culture, is that we don't really understand irony. We live in irony. We live in a fundamentalist culture where everything is what it is. So that means words are what they are. So if you say whatever the word says, we believe that word is the thing. But metaphor is an ironic way to look at it. So a metaphor, well, let me give you an example. Let me show you. I hope you can see it. You want to see my pride and joy?
Yes, always.
Can you see it?
It says joy, pride and joy.
Yes, right.
2 bottles of something? Oh,
It's a bottle of joy and a bottle of pledge.
pledge.
A
Okay.
bottle of pride and a bottle of joy.
Okay.
Now I asked you a question. Do you want to see
My
my
pride.
pride and joy? And most minds will say, "Oh shit, he's going to show me his ugly baby, or or his dog, or or his cat or something." And I'll smile. I'll be good, and I'll smile. Oh, that's beautiful. That's nice,
Thank you. Thank you.
But I'm going to have to force it a little bit. I'm going to have to put on a fake smile. Oh yeah, it's really nice, really nice. It's a beautiful gun. And then I see the truth, right? And it blows. And this, people always laugh when I do a talk. I'll start to talk with this.
Yes.
Got somebody want to see my pride and joy. Oh yeah, yeah. And I'll show them that, and they'll break out laughing. The spontaneous laughter or release from the ambiguity.
Yeah.
See, I'm literally saying, you want to see my bottle of joy and pride? But they think I'm saying, oh, pride and joy is a metaphor for what I love with so much, you know. And I just can't help. I want to show you what's so important to me. You see, my pride and my joy. You see,
So it's
So-
like an assumption.
it's an assumption. So this destroys the assumption because he was talking about a literal bottle of pride and joy. You see, and so that is irony. In other words, the irony, and it's a metaphor. So this is a metaphor for me, because it points to one thing but means the opposite. So the metaphor is it points to what subjective, what you're thinking the pride and joy is, but it's really pointing to the literal bottle of pride and joy. So that's the Zen fit. That's it starts out by being not fitting, and then suddenly it comes together as a fit. Oh, he's talking about, you know, so this,
But there's one more thing, real quick. That pride and joy,
yeah.
those images took me right back to my childhood 45 years ago.
Oh, these are
whatever.
old.
Yeah.
I got this from my uncle.
I grew up. I recognized them immediately. I haven't seen those things for decades,
Yeah.
but
my
those were underneath my sink when I was growing up.
Yeah. My uncle was a photographer in Tampa. He died when he's not. We brought him here when he was infirm, and he died 10 years ago. But he was a photographer, and he gave me this, and this is his business card. You see, it's got business on the other. So he said, "Here, you take this, and people will keep your business card forever." You know, because it arouses the mind that does not rest on what you think it's resting on. So it arouses the ambiguity and you break the ambiguity. Here is the subjective pride and joy in my mind that he's going to show me. And then there's the objective pride and joy, which I show you. This is objective. That's pride and joy is over there. But the situation creates a conflict between the subjective. I think he's going to show me his dog. And, but I have no idea he's going to show me a bottle of pride and joy, you see.
So we don't see that on Facebook very much.
The irony.
The irony.
We see it in jokes.
Well, Ed, that reminds me of there's a saying. I'm going to ascribe it to Zen. It might not be, but basically that the everyday mind is the Buddha mind, and so there's this searching for this Buddha mind.
Yes.
With the Buddha mind that's not seen. It's seen
as soon as you say Buddha,
mind.
as soon as you say Buddha mind, you've created an ambiguity.
Exactly.
Because if you say it's this, you for this to exist, there has to be that. And that can be anything. Anything you want it to be. It can be this or that or whatever, you see. So this is a great demonstration for me of the truth of ambiguity, or the explosion of truth. So this creates an explosion of laughter, because the metaphor here creates a tension or an ambiguity between what is the pride and joy. And so when you see the literal pride and joy, the tension of what is this guy going to show me, and now I got to fake a smile, you see, that collapses, and the collapse of the ambiguity relieves of the mind of the tension of the choice of this or that. What is it? Is it this or that? This is a tension. And so in jokes, and ironic jokes, the joke creates the tension and then relieves you of it through laughter.
But the expectation, the brain generates the expectation, and I identify with it, and then I laugh and so on. But afterwards, if I'm not mindful, I'm going to overlook that in general, my expectations lie to me,
Oh,
right?
Well,
Always.
if I stay with the everyday mind, with the actual concrete experience, without getting into speculation and analysis and psychology and all that, if I stay with the experience of laughter, that is metaphorical to Zen awakening. So let's take one of the breakout cones of Zen, which is Joshu's Mu. So the monk has an ambiguity. He's got a tension in his mind, and he finally gets an audience with great master Joshu, and he says, finally he's got a question, and he says, please put my mind to rest. Does a dog have Buddha nature or not? Does a dog have? And so what the monk is really saying, he's obviously been practicing Buddhism. So he really knows that all beings have Buddha nature. That's an axiom of Buddhism. So why is he asking if a dog has Buddha nature? Well, what he's really asking is, I've been practicing all my life and my mind isn't at rest. Now a dog's mind is at rest. Why can't my mind be at rest as a dog? Is a dog better than me? You know, Buddha nature is rest, or the one that is two. So he wants to know where that rest is and why I don't have it. So he puts Joshu in a bind, the double bind, because if Joshu says no, a dog doesn't have Buddha nature, well then Joshu is refuting Buddhism. And if he says yes, a dog does have Buddha nature, then he's not answering the monk. So Joshu's in a double bind. No matter what Joshu says, yes or no, no or yes, he's wrong. So this arouses in Joshu the mind that doesn't rest on either or. Now, what is that mind that doesn't rest on does a dog have Buddha nature or not? Well, Joshu says Mu. Well, now this is the cone. What does Mu mean? You can't find it. There's no way to find out what Mu means, because Mu is your own mind that is aroused when you break free of the tension between is it this or that.
either or.
It's
Yes.
created. So you have to be Mu. So in Zen, we are Mu. We are this creative response to life, but we get caught up in choice. Well, what is the right response? Is it this teaching or that teaching?
Who or moo?
Huh?
That's the irony, is that we're already mooing as such, but the thought stream is thinking other things away from that. It's
Yes.
not seeing that.
Well, I want to find something. I got to find something, and we look for it through choice. Is it this or that?
Correct. Alla, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Yeah, Ed, thank you very much. It's just delightful. You've really described exactly what's going on in everyday living, is this constant choice. The interesting thing is that pride and joy is exactly where James Hartland identified it belongs under the kitchen sink. And keep it there.
Yeah.
This constant yes, no, making choices, making decisions every day. Something that I've really experienced, and particularly in the last year for me, has been it makes absolutely zero difference what choice you make. This is what's happening in everyday living. I go to the right, I go to the left, I buy this, I don't buy that. I freeze my salmon that's coming out of the water right now, or I don't. Zero difference. The fact of the matter is there is something that I have seen for myself, something beyond all of that. And that's just kind of what has been stuck onto us in terms of upbringing, background, this, that, oh my God, should I make that decision? The tension that it creates in us. It's all crazy. Pride and joy right under the sink and leave it there.
Yeah, there was a Zen. I use a lot Zen koans as a lot of my examples. But so the monk asked the master, "What is the way?" And the master said, "The kitchen sink."
Ah,
So, but this gets to the problem of the modern mind, where only things exist. Only reality is matter. That's our fundamental assumption. So matter is something. And so the problem is that when there is something, in order for this to be something, there has to be the whole background. There has to, for the pen to exist, there has to be not pen.
mhm.
So the pen doesn't exist by itself in the universe. The pen exists in a context, but because our consciousness is only aware of form, things, consciousness can't be aware of the whole. So consciousness is a duality delivery system. It's like Noah's Ark. In consciousness, everything comes in pairs. And the only way out of Noah's Ark through consciousness is to choose the right pair and get rid of the other one. So we're given to which pen do you want? Well, you have to eliminate all the other pens, and I'll try them all out until I find this is the one. But I get to this one by eliminating all the other pens. So this means that choice is arrived at through reduction or analysis. And our whole salesmanship, everything, our whole culture, our consumer culture is based on the idea that through your intellect, you can figure out which is the right product. Do some research, it's going to be this, but you have to find, then everything wants to put itself forward. So every foreground has its own research. So now we got this pen has the research for the best pen, or this pen over here has the best research. So now I got to choose, and they're both right.
So Ed, just to be clear, you are differentiating between consciousness and awareness. It seems.
Yes, I'm getting to that. Have you all seen the movie Hurt Locker? Of course, that was the movie that really pissed me off because it won Best Picture over Avatar. But Hurt Locker is about choice and the inquiry into choice. And you have a soldier who takes the fuse out of bombs. He deconstructs bombs by cutting wires. And so he's always, so when he's deconstructing a bomb, which wire do you cut? And so he loved this soldier in Hurt Locker, came back to the United States on leave, and he was living the life of the United States. And he went to the supermarket, and he was supposed to get some cereal, and he stood there in an aisle of cereal of choices, endless choices, like a Grand Canyon of choices, and he was completely paralyzed. So he just grabbed one and threw it in the basket and walked out. So basically, the truth of the movie was, which he said, I remember, he said, when you are deconstructing a bomb, you're either alive or dead. There's no choice. Because if you choose the wrong one and you're dead, you don't know it. So we only know we've chosen the wrong one because we can look back on it and says, oh, I shouldn't have chosen that pen. I didn't do enough research. I didn't choose the right pen. But if you're deconstructing a bomb, if you're dealing with life, which is the bomb, if you're dealing with life, there is no choice. So the point is that with this awakening everyday mind, is that when you really get into the essence of choice, you'll see that life is ambiguous. Every situation is really ambiguous. And so there really is no either or to choose from. So you just do it. So whatever you just do, when you're free from the fear of choice, is going to be the right choice. So when you do a live talk, if you're caught up in choice, well, are these words the right words, or is this, or what if I say the wrong words, or what if I look foolish, or what if I look like they're going to think I'm nuts? You see, well, I'm dealing in choice there. What is the right way to do this? But if you see there's no choice, then you just do it.
Yes, we speak from me-less,
Yeah,
right? Mu-less,
yeah,
or um, uh, it's so important to recognize that the mind constructs what we think is reality because we believe it.
yes,
There's a totally cultivated attitude and um, um, I'm messing some words like you were saying, but that produces and shapes our experience.
yes.
So
The
what I'm afraid of and what I'm not afraid of and what me think is true and so projects and shapes my experience.
Yes, and that cultivated attitude goes all the way back to the um, uh, age of reason, or quote enlightenment, when the scientific method and reason replaced uh, mythological thinking of the Middle Ages, or
There's another
metaphorical
irony right there.
metaphorical thinking. So when the age of reason was a great adventure when it began, but it has morphed into a frozen attitude that we're like stuck in right now, that everything is a thing and you can choose the right thing. So when you have two things, obviously, then when there's two pins, to get the right pin, you have to choose one. Uh, and so everything is reduced to form, things, and choosing the right one. And this has proliferated in our culture into Costco or Walmart, you see. This infinite variety of choices. So every time there's a new cereal, it's going to split into two new cereals. It's the Hydra of Hercules. The second labor of Hercules was the nine-headed snake of the Hydra, and the labor, what Hercules' problem was that every time he cut one head off, it multiplied into more heads. So he couldn't choose his way out because the choices kept multiplying.
So we're conditioned to think and believe that there is, and I have an I called me, free will.
Yeah.
And what flows from that is that I can, should, could control outcomes.
Yes. And if we go back to the beginning of this catastrophe, which is really not the modern world is not a catastrophe, but we're discovering its limits. And the limitations of modern mind is that it's a viewpoint. Now, the viewpoint of the modern world is that it's the viewpoint of a mechanic or a surgeon. So the world can be fixed, or I can be fixed, if I have the right tools or the right expert or the right teaching or whatever I use, you see. But it's fixable. And so with that belief, we create the viewpoint of the fixer, the mechanic on the machine or the surgeon on the body, whether it's the living body or the mechanical body. It's still a viewpoint of the viewpoint of the fixer, who is outside of what he's trying to fix. So the surgeon is outside of the body and the mechanic is outside of the engine. Otherwise, he couldn't fix it. But this is a viewpoint. So this is one of the Buddha's axioms, is that everything is a viewpoint, even Buddhism. So if you have viewpoints, then you have choices. So we get on Facebook, everybody's got a viewpoint or an opinion. And so there, and each one is trying to make their opinion the one pen that is better than all the others. The one pen you should have, you see, the one viewpoint you should have. So everybody's fighting for their viewpoint to be the one that has no second. But when everything is a viewpoint, what do? That blows the whole game, you see. But then that leads us to a cul-de-sac or a dead end. Well, if everything is a viewpoint, then nothing is real. And that's not it either. So the question in Zen is, what is your face before your parents were born? Or what is your face before your viewpoint? What is your choice before choices? Well, we don't know.
Well, when we look with clarity at our lives as they are in any moment, we can see that it's absolutely spontaneous happening.
Yes.
So that in itself means that there's no choice. But
Yeah,
the mind, the modern mind doesn't like that idea and resists it, because it means then who's in control then, and it's afraid of that.
And yet we pay a fortune to get that experience of spontaneity and no choice. Our movies, look at Mission Impossible. What's Mission Impossible about is that Cruise, our character, has a plan. In other words, he's given an impossible mission and he has a plan. And so the movie, he goes in the plan to about halfway through the movie, and then the plan fails. Now what does he do? He's got no plan. Well, he wings it. He operates on faith alone. He has faith in himself, not in the plan. So when you give a live talk, if you have faith in yourself, you don't depend on your notes or your script or your talking points, you see, or your teleprompter. You just have faith in yourself that you will do the right thing, that you will say the right thing at the appropriate moment, and you won't be like a blabbering idiot. You see? So this is the question of faith. What do we put faith in? Do we put it in our tool, in our expert, in our teachings, in my experience, in my analysis, in the power of my mind? You see, what do I put my faith in? And Zen is arousing the mind that doesn't rest on anything, which is faith mind. It arouses the faith that rests on faith, not on faith in anything. And there's no way to do this. You have to discover it by realizing that all the things you had faith in are no good. When you erase all the things you have faith in, you arouse a mind that doesn't rest on anything. And that's going to be spontaneous, and it's going to be an explosion, and it's going to be a surprise. It's not if it's not a surprise, you're just kicking the same can down the road.
Yes, you're functioning in the known.
Yes.
And reality is unknown, totally.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes.
It's unknowable.
Yeah. That was one of the, there's a few Zen koans about Bodhidharma. And Bodhidharma came to China in 500 AD to bring Zen to China, Buddhism. Buddhism already existed for 200 or 300 years in China. And he met Emperor Wu, who was a great exponent of Buddhism in China. And he was so proud of it. And he met this guy, this sage from the West, from India, or wherever he maybe came from, Afghanistan, whatever. And so he's asked this Bodhidharma, said, well, who are you? And Bodhidharma says, I don't know. Now, the question is, did Bodhidharma need more information to know who he was? Oh, the second part of that koan is that the emperor's assistant said, Bodhidharma just said, I don't know, and walked off. And so the assistant says, who was that man? Kind of like the Lone Ranger, who was that man? And the Emperor says, I don't know. Now, what's the difference between Bodhidharma's I don't know and the Emperor's I don't know? So the Emperor is saying, well, I don't know, but I'll find out. I'm going to research this and look this guy up, and then I'll know who he is. And Bodhidharma says, knowing who, I'm unknowable.
Unknowable.
I'm knowable, unknowable. That you can't, unknowable is emptiness. So our culture has no place for unknowables. We believe we can know everything given enough computer power.
Yes,
That's
we're focused on experience,
Yes,
and it's personal. So we personalize our relationship, me having a relationship with others, separate entities, etc. And the reality is it isn't personal.
yes,
It can never be experienced through the body mind, not immediately.
yeah. That's
It has to be known through the immediate and direct and instant recognition now,
yes,
not in any form of becoming, but in being.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no way to get there.
No way to get there. You are there.
We're already there.
We're all there.
In Japan, in Kyoto, there's a Buddhist temple, very ancient. And it's very, very old, but at one time before the temple was there, there was a home for the emperor. And in the shrine of the temple, there's all these kind of like wooden walkways and porch things everywhere, overlooking the gravel garden and so on. And you're just kind of walking along and you come to this beautiful spot, very, very beautiful. There's trees, the gravel, little water and so on. And then you look down and there's this little piece of wood about this big on a stick, just sticking out of the ground.
Right.
And there's some kanji written on it. And that is the spot where Bodhidharma told the emperor or the king of Japan
Right.
the story about Japan, about China. Pretty
Well,
cool.
okay, I'm a little confused there because Bodhidharma was in China. Was it? In other words, Bodhidharma came to China in 500 AD, and he was the first patriarch of Zen. And there
And it must have been one of his direct descendants then that
could have been Dogen, because Dogen went to China and was awakened by the Chinese Buddhists and brought that awakening back to Japan.
the particular thing was the relation of the story, I don't know story,
Right.
to the emperor
Right.
on that spot. So however, I thought it was Bodhidharma, but I guess I'm wrong.
It doesn't make any difference who it was, really.
Yeah.
Hello, you had your hand raised. Go ahead. Unmute though.
Hala?
Sorry, just unmuted. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's very, very curious. I mean, Ed, you've got quite a mind. I mean, you retain stuff like a computer. It's amazing. With all the history, you're clearly a history buff. What's interesting to me is that no matter what we do, how we interact, how we live in our world, there is something that is completely beyond that. Like, it's perfectly fine if you're in a place of healing the body. It's okay if you're in a place of healing the mind. It's okay if you're Catholic today and not tomorrow. I mean, all these things have their place, and it's absolutely wonderful. At some point in our existence on the planet Earth, and it's like, this is the crazy part. How did I get there? There is no getting there. It's just something steps out of the way, and there it is. And that stepping aside is not even an active force. It's like something is just different. There's a shift. And if you try to explain it to anybody, if you try to identify it, there's no words. It's very similar to what Ed you're saying, and James Hartland and others, Philo, James. It's like it's a wordless existence. It's that in between, it's the hand clapping, it's
Right.
that space in between. And how we get there is there's no getting there.
Yeah, so Zen would say, referring back to my reference, so what you just described is mu. It is the no that is beyond yes and no, or the pairs of opposites.
Yep.
So there is no objective mu. You're it.
Yep.
So, but everybody, you brought to mind another thought that I'd like to introduce is that the logo I use, or the title I use for my talks, I do Facebook Live talks, is AIM. Now, I first used that as Awakening Insight Meditation, but it means something different to me now. It means awakening the integrating mind. Now, we all love integrating minds. Joseph Campbell, studied since 1970, is an integrating mind. He integrated mythology in his field, which was mythology. So Einstein integrated physics. So these great minds are awakened, integrating minds, but they are integrating their field. So whatever their field is where that integrating mind works. So it doesn't work on everything. The integrating mind may integrate all of mythology and go home, and his wife has to tell him where his shoes are. In other words, in other fields, he's not integrating. But in his chosen field, he integrates everything. And by integrating everything, he's like a whole. He's like the eye of a hurricane. And all the winds of experience go around and around that whole, and he integrates them in emptiness. So, one of my favorite movie metaphors is Space Odyssey 2001. So if y'all, hope y'all saw that, but what integrates that movie is the obelisk. So this obelisk, black obelisk, appears to apes, and then it appears to humans through their evolution, particularly the astronauts. And every time, and the obelisk is like Bodhidharma. What does the obelisk mean? It's unknowable. The obelisk is unknowable, yet it appears. So it's formless, yet it appears as a form. It's the formless form. So the obelisk appears as an integrating principle in the evolution of the movie, or from apes to the astronauts, you see. So whenever the obelisk appears, evolution happens, or integration happens, and a new world is created, a new whole is discovered, you see, a new world, a new whole, a new way of seeing everything, a new viewpoint, you see. So this Bodhidharma then is a metaphor for the arousing of an integrating center that restores the fragmented world into a new unity. And America is at that place right now, I see, because we're totally fragmented. Our way of knowing has fragmented the world into a plethora of cereal boxes or choices, and every choice is as good as the other. So we're constantly being at war. My choice is better. No, mine is better. No, mine is better. Yada, 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 and so on. And so we reach a saturation point where this whole thing just explodes, and it's going to explode in either destruction or creating a new way to see the world. And so that happens in us. When we're caught in a fit, nothing fits, nothing fits. I can't choose. If I choose this, I'm wrong. If I choose that, I'm wrong. Wow, 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 wow. The mic and the amplifier, wow, 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 wow. Turn it off. See. So a saturation reaches a point where that energy that is caught up, just explodes into a creative idea, a new way of looking at yourself and the world, a new way of integrating all of the fragments and data. So like we do this in technology. What was Steve Jobs' Macintosh was sold on a new way to integrate the fragmentation of the personal computer. Mac is simple. But now we have AI. What is AI? But a new way to integrate all these fragmented data, you see. So technology keeps when the simple gets complex and the complex becomes dysfunctional, a creative idea is going to explode onto the scene, and suddenly everything is integrated and everybody buys that because it gets us out of the confusion and the complexity of the previous field, you see. And so a mind is like that. Joseph Campbell came on to the fragmented mythological field where all these myths were just stories, Greek stories and Chinese myths and Indian, all these fragmented, and he integrated them all into a new way of seeing myth.
Ed, I want to go back to the 2001 analogy for a minute. For me, those appearances of the obelisks, to me, they're more like moments of clarity, like when the thought stream drops away.
Yes, yes.
And suddenly there's this vista that's always been there, but now it's clear. It's kind of what Allah was saying.
Right.
It's kind of an inexplicable happening. There's no way to have it happen to you. It just happens. And then you have this clarity, and then from the clarity, then there can be development, on a human level.
Yes.
And I think we see the same thing. I think we saw something like this yesterday with Donald Trump's attempted assassination. At least for me, and I think for many, there was a moment of clarity there that, hey, all of that stuff has led to this. And he's been one of the perpetrators of it, along with the other people. And now there's a kind of moment of clarity around this. And there's a chance for the whole thing to move forward in a way that's more positive. If that is what is to happen.
If I may really
drops away suddenly, and suddenly there's, wow, that actually happened.
Yeah.
Metaphorically thinking, which is what I practice, is that history events that we see out there in the media are metaphorical to our own inner discovery in mind. So in the ancient world, the macrocosm, which is the external world, and the let me see, what are they? The outside and the inside, the macro and the micro. Right? The macro is the outside cosmos that we perceive, and the micro is the mind, the self I perceive, my thoughts and my feelings. And so in the world, the ancient world before the scientific world, these two reflected each other. But with the science and the method of knowing that science is, they got split apart so that the objective world is the objective world, and the micro or you are just a dream. In other words, your thoughts and your feelings are really just fantasy and opinion and don't mean anything. In existence, things exist. So you're kind of like a ghost. But when the Space Odyssey, Trump, we're talking about Trump. So if we look at our cultural history right now, this cultural war between the left and the right, Trump and the liberals and all of this stuff, in America, it's really a cultural war of values. that is recreating the Civil War, just kicking the can down the road in a new form, you see. Civil wars end when the left and the right fight
Integrate.
and come to a saturation point where there's total winning or total destruction. Now, we noticed that the end of World War II, there was unconditional destruction of Germany and unconditional surrender of Japan. There was nothing, no resistance left. They were both utterly destroyed. And so a new Germany was born and a new Japan was born out of the ashes of the total destruction of the other. But in America, our Civil War was not unconditional. The North won technically, but the South never gave up. You see, so there was no unconditional surrender and death of the South. It just keeps, it's just the head of the Hydra. The Yankees cut it off and a new South was born. So a new South keeps getting born over and over again because there was no unconditional surrender of one side or the other. So it's always the Ouroboros of two snakeheads devouring each other, going around, and this Ouroboros keeps recreating it in our history in new forms. And the Trump versus the left, right versus the left, is just a new formation of the old Civil War.
Yes, and it seems like this unconditional defeat or surrender, whatever you want to call it, that's, for me, that's one of the requirements of awakening. Is that the self is the little self is defeated utterly, and in that defeat, the clarity is born or is revealed.
Well, I think did you ever see the had to keep mentioning movies, the Caine Mutiny with Humphrey Bogart?
Never saw that one.
Everyone should watch that, because it was a mutiny on an American ship. It was a freighter or something, but the captain was nuts, and he wouldn't make the right. And they were in a storm, and the captain was making decisions that was going to sink the ship. So the executive officer and a few other officers mutinied and took over the command of the ship. But when they got back to shore, they were tried as mutineers because the captain looked sane. I mean, played by Humphrey Bogart, nothing wrong with him. And so they had a trial. And as the trial went on, Humphrey Bogart's captain began to reveal his madness. So he revealed his madness while he was on the witness stand, and suddenly the jury and the whole court knew that the captain was mad. So the point of the story is that he had to reveal his madness himself. So I think I see Trump as the mad captain, and if he's given enough rope, he'll expose his madness to the point where it's going to be obvious to all, because reality is not mad.
That's a very important point. James, did you have something there?
In Dzogchen, integration is, in Dzogchen, you are enlightened at the very beginning. You are introduced to your natural state in an unmistakable way that, in most cases, convinces a person outside their thinking mind that this has to be continued with. And so continuation basically is called or understood as integration. So here's the established natural state moving through a world that stimulates all of the conditioning and the world itself is crazy and so on. Integration is simply refusing, as it were, all of the suggestions that conditioning and the world offer and bring it into spontaneously into this naturalness, this selfless presence
Yes, I
where there's no uncertainty.
Yes, I get in my Facebook dialogues. I'm constant bad water between Tibetan Buddhism and Zen Buddhism because they're both saying the same thing, but they say it in a different way. And so what you said, this idea is that we're already integrated, we're already whole, and yet we're not. So this is where, for me, where Zen really got into the crux, the essence of it, is that we are both whole and not whole at the same time, and it's ambiguous. So you can't choose one or the other, but we try what we must. So we must choose whole instead of fragmentation.
Well, but only for a moment. Only for the act of choice reveals the psychological chooser, which in terms of integration negates it, right? Spontaneous negation. Or one of the lamas says it's basically a process of continuous purification, because yes, we have this divided mind that's constantly provoking, trying to, I lost power.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Let's have a question. I think David raised his hand, and then we can
I
have
saw that.
ideas.
Yeah, hang on a second. I'll come right back.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'm guessing James is on a battery backup for his computer and his electricity is going, so it may not last long.
Who's
I
talking?
want to back up a bit because this has been like a roller coaster ride for me. And I'm still, we started talking about choice and choiceless choice, the spontaneity of choiceless choice. And it seems to me like this choice on not choice is viewpoint. Maybe I'm using viewpoint in a different way to you, Ed, but it seems like, from one viewpoint, I decided I would attend this and log on. And from another viewpoint, there was no choice. It just happens. I didn't have any choice in it. But it seems like if I go into a parking lot, I can't go into any car and drive home. I have to choose my car. So choice is not a problem. And, I'm going to have something to drink. I choose, do I want tea or coffee or water? I make a choice. It's okay. But it seems like the other part of choice is rejection, because every time you choose something, there's an implicit rejection. I know that's dualistic, and going into another dualistic point of view, there's external choice and there's internal choice. And what I've been seeing a lot is in myself is rejection of my own experience, that kind of, and choosing, like, I should feel this way, I shouldn't feel that, I should get on board with this, I shouldn't feel hateful. Oh my God, what a terrible person I am. I shouldn't feel that way. I need to reject that nasty part of my corrupt soul. So it's like, but
Well, you are demonstrating the Zen cone. I just repeated a little while ago when the monk asked Joshu, well, what is this choice thing? Where is this no choice? What does that mean? Where do I go when there's no choice? You say, I like ice cream. I got to choose my car. I got to have a choice. So where is this no choice, you know. And so Joshua said, go to where there's no hot and cold. Well, where is that? Well, when you're hot, sweat. When you're cold, shiver. So when you feel that you should not make a choice, or when you feel I should do this, or when you feel I shouldn't do this, just feel that.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, just be that feeling, you know. So where is the one that is not two? Well, it's who you are right now. So if you're feeling miserable, that's who, be that. That's who, feel miserable totally. Allow the feeling of miserable to be miserable. There's no choice. You can't, if you have a choice, then you say, well, I shouldn't be visible.
Exaggerate it.
Shouldn't be miserable because I've been doing all this fucking meditation, and now I feel like I'm going back to square one. And what happened to this 20 years of practice? You know, I shouldn't be having this. Well, there you go.
Oh, I exactly know that. I know everything you just said, and yet I still do that. It's like chewing gum stuck to my.
That's the habit mind.
Yes.
It's just a habit.
Yep.
Also, there's something to discern between what we'll call functional relationships and psychological, which is really our head experience, our beliefs, our conditioning. In functional relationship, we need to be able to pick out our car. We need to be able to function well. And it's in the realm of the psychology where we lose connection with real functionality. Like we're functioning in preferences and denials rather than just functioning in terms of pure immediate relationship to what is.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Well, you help me understand a Zen cone. I don't need to apologize, but I listened to the Dharma talks of Albert Lowe, who is the
Yes.
Zen master of Montreal Zen Center, and all of his teishos or talks are describing or penetrating or pulling apart Zen cones. So I really kind of like inhabit a lot of that, because Zen koans are stories that help you get a grip on ambiguity. When I was into guru yoga back in the 70s, the guru was always using little yoga stories, little yoga stories about the yogi and all of this, Well, they're all the same, or nursery rhymes, whatever. Anyway, the point is that this koan that comes from my mind is that the monk and the master were out hoeing in the yard, and the monk asked the master, says, what is the function? And the master, what is the essence? And the master held the hoe up directly, vertical. And then the monk said, well, there's the essence, where's the function? And the master then began to hoe the ground, you see. So a lot of these questions in Zen is, what is the essence and what is the function? Well, you just said the function is choice. It's useful. But what is
Essential.
the essence? Yeah. Well, what
Essential.
is the yeah? What is the essence? Well, the essence is that everything is one. So it really doesn't make any difference what you choose.
There's no you to choose. That's the understanding.
Well, that's the essence. The essence is that everything is one, but to function, everything has to be two. So to function, there has to be two. If I'm going to write with this pen, I have to choose this one. I can't write with all the pens on my desk. You see, I have to choose. So function is choice.
Yeah.
But what is the essence? Well, the essence is that everything is, the face before the function is everything is one. So the one before it becomes two is absolute unity. So there's no outside. So when the Zen says, from the beginning, all beings are Buddha, that means before you have choice, everything is one. But then function divides everything into twos. So
The problem isn't I don't see a problem in choice. The problem is the psychological chooser, the identifier. the
yes,
me.
yes,
And how the identifier clings to itself specifically.
right. Well, just as
And that requires believing that the past is happening now. I have in order to
James and Ed,
yeah, go ahead.
can we redirect what you're thinking here and put it back in the domain of David's question behind what I think is what he was saying was, I know all of this, but why is it still happening? Is I think is David, is that correct? Is that what you were kind of saying? Why can't I have this, why
Yes.
can't this
Spot
be
on.
different?
Well, no, what I'm saying is that activity is, even though it happens, it's still, and it comes out of the known, it's not really chosen. It's automatic. And even though it's automatic, it's still impersonal. The mechanism is the same in everyone. The content is different in everyone, but the mechanism is the same. If we understand the mechanism, then we can see, oh, even though I have that impulse to choose or think or perceive that way, it's not really me right now.
well,
It's just, right?
If you get like trying to get back to the integrating principle here about choice, it's not really about going to Baskin Robbins and it's okay. I like chocolate, I like cherry, choose these flavors. But if that cherry flavor will make you a better person, then that's a different kind of choice. And so that requires a sense of self who needs to be one up on everyone else. So then if I identify with a separate self, what you call it ego or sense of self, or a me, you see, then my choices are going to be about enhancing me. And so that's not the choice we're talking about, because so that's where I think we get confused in this. Is so, like our friend said, well, I want to choose which car, or whatever, everything is choice. But when we choose from as a chooser or as a sense of self that needs to be enhanced by my choices, now that's a totally different situation. Now that's divisive, but if all choices are the same, I can choose chocolate for God's sake. But
yeah, I guess I was getting confused by the metaphors of, going of the pen and because you're now talking about relationship to one's inner self.
So even if
Experience.
even if the neighbor says an irritating word and I have a reactive feeling, and then I say, well, I'm a practicing Buddhist, shouldn't have that feeling. Now I've created a choice, you see, because I don't feel enhanced. I don't feel I'm my true self.
Sorry, can I ask you something?
Yes.
See, we were talking about choice, right? And we have to look at it from the dream or from within the illusion, where there is no choice, because everything that we do is learned. If I am choosing red, why am I choosing red? Like, you give me a choice between blue and red, and I would choose red. Right, why would I choose red? Because it has been learned in some way. You understand? So I have no choice. My choice is, the choice that I've made comes from the conditioning. You understand?
Yes, yeah. Well, let's
So
get.
yeah,
Let me-
but coming to your point, when
Right.
you said choice, now when you actually experience this, you will realize that we have no choice. That whatever is happening on its own. That there is no you in it
Well,
to
here's
make a choice.
I work with this. This is a dilemma, and I run into it all the time with myself and with my other people or whatever. It seems like the core dilemma between there's no choice, there's nobody that no self to choose, so there's no choice. But then at the same time, choice matters. So the way I approach it is that in the way
Yeah.
all choices are the same, and yet to function you have to choose. Otherwise, you can't
Yes,
function.
there
So
is an appearance of
so
a
what
choice.
you choose
But
what matters, because
yes,
you are that choice. You matter. You are the choice, but you're not choosing it to be a better person. You're just
no,
choosing it
because
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 yeah.
at the end of the day, we are taught that we have discrimination, that
yeah.
we know that there is right and wrong. But now, how can there be right and wrong if there's no one there? You understand? Who
That's
now? If I'm looking at that, what is seeking is what is sought. Now, the sought itself is not right and wrong, but the appearance of right and wrong. So there can be no karma. You know what I mean? It makes no sense
Yeah, it's
because
true.
ultimately you have no choice. There's no discrimination. You know.
well.
So
This is what
yeah, everything falls down.
the practice of Zen
Sorry.
is all about suspending the discriminating mind. Now, we do this all the time, but we don't realize we're doing it. So, if you go to a movie, you suspend
Yeah.
the discriminating mind and you inhabit the movie as the movie. If you sit there and watch the movie and say, well, they shouldn't be saying that. I have people that come over and watch a movie and they piss me off because the movie's going on. They'll say, well, I wouldn't do that. Why is she doing that? Well, you shut up. It's a movie. No, she can't suspend her discriminating mind. The movie's wrong.
Yeah.
So we have to suspend
No,
using
but
mind.
it's not a discriminating mind or judgment as such. It is like if you're looking at it and you're saying, I mean, if there's nothing there, there's only this. Thou art Brahman, there is only Brahman. I mean, from the point of view of Advaita or Vedanta, then who is there to be right or wrong?
This is the problem. This is the problem of cults. Now, people will join a cult to suspend the horror of choice of whether being right or wrong. I can't choose, and they'll let the cult leader choose.
Yes.
So the cult leader will choose for me, and now I'm at ease.
Yes.
I don't have to choose. I can be protected and certain within the fields of that cult or that teaching or that brand. I mean, if you brand, my mother branded, she lived to be 102, and she had a vacuum cleaner. She always bought that vacuum cleaner. She was branded. You know, Hoovers are the best, regardless of whether you got a better one.
Okay, but I mean, we're not in a cult. So basically, all we're saying is that when you experience this shift, then it is known that things are happening without a you. That's all. Sorry.
James.
David, I want to ask, is what Razia is saying helpful in that if it's understood that there really is no person called David, doing or not doing something, liking or not disliking something, if that's just energy arising as that is also aware of that, is that helpful? Would that be helpful?
What I one of my favorite books, since I've lived long enough to go through books from the 60s, 50s, 60s, and so on, was I'm Okay, You're Okay. Now, I'm okay, you're okay has 4 levels of okayness. The first okay is I'm okay, but you're not okay. Well, that means you is the world. I'm okay, but the world is fucked up. The second level is I'm not okay, but the world is okay. So, and the third level is the world's not okay, and nor am I. So this is the place where
So the
suicide.
third level is God is messed up. Is that that?
And the fourth level is
God is messed up.
the fourth level is I'm okay, the world is okay, and I'm okay. So when
Let's
you
go
reach
with the fourth one then, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's go with the fourth one.
have to go
No,
through.
I'd like to answer Philo's question because, you know,
Well, you
Fraser
didn't. Wait a
brought
minute.
up a
Wait a
good
minute.
point.
Let me finish the fourth okay. The fourth okay is I'm okay, and the world is okay. That means whatever I choose is okay.
I choose that one. I'm mocking a bit, but
Yes,
Grace
David.
did bring up a point which, you know, her choice saying about between the red and the black, and she was pointing to the conditioning. So I see like this holy grail of a non-dual state, of choiceless choice, of being completely in the moment and being spontaneous. And I see what? And I see a self, which I know doesn't exist, because when I look into my deepest, there is only emptiness. But still,
But see, that's a cul-de-sac. That's a dead end.
what is?
What you just said, because what you just said was, I think you said, well, that I don't exist, but that's contrary to I know I exist. So the teaching says I don't exist, and yet I know fundamentally, God damn it, I exist. But I'm
Not
supposed to
personally,
know.
though.
But
Not
it's not,
personally, Ed.
But you
it's
see,
the
now
question of, isn't it the question of the separate self rather than?
now I'm caught in a double bind. I'm supposed to believe, according to the teachings, that nothing exists, and yet I know I exist and the world exists. So this is a contradiction that cannot be solved through the intellect or through logic or through choice, because then you either say, well, I choose nothing exists, and that's absurd. And then I choose, well, I'll choose the other. Everything is what it is, and that's absurd.
There has to be a fundamental, direct understanding that there is no chooser. Not just theoretically and in words and in metaphor and yeah, I know I don't exist in that. You actually directly have to know the truth of that. And that is never going to be appreciated or understood
But
this way, through
here's
the
the
mind.
thing: when you arrive at that ground,
You don't arrive, you're there.
when you discover it, what you discover is that you are the knowing that knows you don't exist. So you're the knower of the known exists, but it doesn't exist as what it's known.
Yes, let me just, the word knower is, there is no knower. There is a knowing, but there's no knower and nothing known.
Yeah, that's where Zen takes you.
That's where my direct everyday aware living and anybody else's who perhaps tunes into coming from reality not being a personal interchange. It ain't personal. Nothing is personal. And when we remove the person,
and yet everything is personal.
Well, it's not so contradictory as it sounds. The mind makes contradiction. We are living in two realms, time and space, and in the absolute. For now, the body mind is functioning and living in time space. That's what we're talking about as what's going on here and all of the questions and that. But behind the time space seeming appearance of a reality lies the absolute, which is
Emptiness.
emptiness. And what is it empty of? It's empty of self. To
But
use a few words.
So here's, we're really getting into this conundrum here. Let me
The
read.
mind makes it a conundrum, Ed. I'm just saying, is it the mind creates contradictions?
No, I mean, it's a
Let me
conundrum.
just
trying to
finish.
explain
Let
it.
me just finish. And then I'm happy to throw it back to you. And we're just talking, and we're among friends having coffee.
I'm not arguing. I'm saying
No,
that.
no, we're not. So
And I want this,
just want
James,
to
I want this
say,
to address, I want this to somehow address David's question, because I
I'm
think it's
coming
a
there
really real
too.
question. Go ahead.
yes. Yes, the mind produces contradiction. In aware living, there's total paradox. And do we understand what paradox is? It's not a mental comparing and contrasting, oh, this doesn't fit there, that works there. There's nothing mental in paradox.
Well,
Life
paradox is unknowable.
totally paradoxical, right? That's what we're talking about, I think.
Yeah.
Paradox.
Now, I would
not
say
contradiction.
ambiguous. Ambiguous.
I would use the word paradox only because when you start to see paradox, and right now I can't like pull out a bunch of examples, which is kind of crazy because we're living in paradox. The reality is not what we think or feel or know. It is what it is. I am that which I am, that kind of thing. And nobody can tell you what that is. Nobody can explain it. Nobody can word it. It's our being nature, and again, we can only use words. Words are symbols, and they represent reality, but they have no way of knowing. The mind has absolutely zero way of knowing what reality is.
Well, words create a viewpoint.
A belief.
No,
And reality has no belief. I'm just saying that.
Words create a viewpoint from the outside. For instance, getting back to what I was talking about before, the mechanic and the surgeon are operating on the world outside of it, but they're not operating on themselves. They are a viewpoint that is not being cut or wrenched. No, you've got the surgeon's got his knife and he's cutting the body, or the mechanic's got a wrench and he's twisting the machine. The mechanic and the surgeon don't feel any pain. They're a viewpoint. But what's missing is that they are life. I was just pulling up, they're getting back to my favorite topic, Zen, that the division between Hinayana and Mahayana Buddhism was exemplified by two poems and by the sixth patriarch of Zen. And when the master of a monastery asked his monks to write a poem to see who would be worthy of becoming the next patriarch, the head monk said, "Our body is a Bodhi tree, and our mind is a mirror bright. Careful, we clean them hour by hour, and let no dust alight." Now that's the practice of mindfulness, yoga, Buddhism, the Eightfold Steps, therapy, whatever you want to do, is trying to polish and get rid of the dust or the impurities. Trump is doing that. He's trying to get rid of the impurities of the immigrants, you see, and restore the mirror bright. And so this Hui Ning, who was awakened, but he was in the kitchen and he couldn't even read or write. He saw that posted on the board, and he had another monk write his poem. And he wrote, "There is no Bodhi tree, nor stand of a mirror bright. Since all is void, where can dust alight?" And the master of the monastery saw that Hui Ning was awakened and made him the sixth patriarch. Anyway,
No,
but
that's a really important teaching in a way that might be helpful for David. Like, if you try to find out what is in you that has these thoughts and feelings and likes and dislikes and is making choices, try and drill down into yourself and find those. If they're there, see if they're there or not. Or are they just thoughts arising that are being believed? That's where I think the rubber hits the road. Because if you haven't investigated that yet, and I don't know whether you have or not, but if you haven't, it's certainly something that needs to be investigated, because once it's seen, whatever you're going to see there, once that is seen, I think it might clear up many things. I don't want to lead you or tell you what to look for, but if there is that deep investigation to see what actually is there that's causing all of this trouble for you, then there might be some clarity. The obelisk might appear from 2001. The obelisk with all the stars in it.
I've tried, everything I know, I learned in the kitchen. So
David, could I ask you for any comment?
I
Thank
would
you.
say that Philo is describing my life's mission to me. Has been my mission, my journey for years. That investigation, that deep inquiry into my experience and its roots, and the conditioning that was referred to. And but I think it's, I don't know if it was exactly that, but it said something like it's almost like it's an endless journey looking into that. And
well, everything like when I think we began this talk with the Zen koan, that the monk asked the master, "What is the way?" And the master said, "Your everyday mind is the way." So what is the way then? Is my everyday mind. And what is my everyday mind? But what's happening in every situation. So if I'm in the kitchen and there's a little snit with my wife or something, there's a little irritation, there's where I practice. You can't practice when everything is fine, everything is perfect. You practice when there is an irritation, when there's a rub. So, my wife used to be a massage therapist, and her fingers were magic. And she would find that tension. She would find a knot in your body, her hands would find it, and she would press on it. And you would go, "Oh God, stop, don't stop, stop, don't stop, stop, don't stop." And she would press in, and the pain would be intense. And you say, "Oh, press, give it more." So you would press in on that pain. So when you're in your everyday situation, the practice begins with those little pains. Somebody says something, or you got a pain, you got an ache in your back, and you say, "Oh my God, is that cancer?" Or you forget your keys. "Oh my God, is that dementia?" "Oh my God." There it is. You put your finger on that and you press.
Well, I'm guessing that's your practice now.
Yes.
So here's an impertinent question. How's it going for you?
Well, I'm 87 and I'm still going strong. My practice is daily, and I'm constantly finding new rubs and then discovering that they're empty. But you only discover that they're empty when you allow the pain to be there without trying to fix it or blame it on somebody, for God's sakes. That's the problem.
Mm.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Don't let one part of you blame another part. Those competing eyes, you know. There's always something seeing all
Well,
of that.
Yeah, that goes back to the I'm okay book. You know, the first one is I'm okay, but if the world is wrong, the world's hurting me, or my wife is hurting me, or whatever. Somebody's to blame, but I'm okay. I'm innocent. And then you go to the next level, say, oh, well, it's my fault. I'm the stupid one. She's okay. She was right. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. And blaming myself. And then I get to the point where we're both fucked up. We're both wrong. The world is wrong, and I'm wrong, and it's hell, and and nothing means anything, and I'm going to shoot myself. So we have to go through those levels to break out into a new way of being okay. The pain is okay. The peace is okay. The cancer is okay. Trump is okay. The world is okay.
And might I add,
But I can still polish it to make it better.
that's the part that I would clarify. There is no process to become what you already are, which we know. We know that, the truth of it. And somehow we keep falling for the story of someday I will become something better, more. I did it for decades, it seems like centuries. It's really important to come to a clarity that what is happening right now is everything all at once, and there's no need to know what it is. No need for any kind of change to be affected in time with efforts. It's so essential because we buy into process and becoming, and the ego is all about that. It produces, the mind makes time and becoming. There's real time, like sun up, sun down. That's real time. And then there's psychological time.
Real time is what we're doing right now.
Well, we're always doing real time. I mean, in that sense, yes. As long as we're in the body-mind functionality.
We superimpose artificial time over real time.
Yeah, I think what
that's right.
James is saying here is that whatever is seeing, whatever is happening, can make that your place.
That's it.
The seeing.
Now. It's not a becoming. It's not an endless thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the seeing of the discomfort and all of that, the seeing of it is so easy to overlook that and be looking at directly at the seeming source of the discomfort, if it's Donald Trump or the politics.
Whatever.
And it's the seeing of it that is what needs to be known. That is always ever been seen. From the beginning, from when you were a child to right now, you've always been seeing whatever it is that you've been feeling good or bad about.
That's right. We have to learn how to play. So Jesus says you have to be like a little child to get into the kingdom. Well, a little child knows how to play. So the parents may have a flat tire and they're cussing the tire and they're cussing the fate and everything. And the child is playing with the hubcap.
Yeah.
So this whole idea of play is we've forgotten that in the modern world, and the world has become serious. But the sense of play is even when you have a cancer, you can play with that because everything is is ambiguous. Everything is potential.
Yeah.
Ambiguity means potential. It's not this or that. It's whatever you want to make out of it. So you create. This is why they say, well, the painter is, in other words, the metaphor is that the painter is in the painting. The painter is the painting he creates, or the artist is in the art. So we're in the world as our art. Each one of us is creating a world and living in it, but we take it seriously because we separate our knowing of the world from the being of the world. And we're like the mechanic or the surgeon, or we're separate because of our viewpoint. So if we could drop that viewpoint, we would see a totally different world. We would be in the world totally differently if we could stop being outside of the world as an alien.